Ashley, we're now going to talk about the SBO e-hearings.
Yes.
Russell, why don't you start? Why don't you, let's talk about what they were for, what was going on, what this is all about, and why we had to have this big hearing where 140 people testified.
160 were signed up, but a lot of them were no-shows, so I guess you're right. So we had this State Board of Education hearing, and this is a big deal because in Texas, we're the second largest purchasers of textbooks in the entire country. So what happens in Texas strongly affects what happens in the rest of the country. So if the State Board of Education would, for instance, reject a textbook, there's a very strong chance that the publishers would decide to go ahead and just not publish it at all because, you know, they would lose too much money. Unfortunately, what's been happening in the last few years is that the creationists, who you've probably seen in the news around all over the country, trying to, have been trying to load up school boards so that the school boards will vote for these really insane things. But it hasn't been working too well. Like, for instance, in Kansas, they had this thing where they put a disclaimer no, they didn't put a disclaimer. They simply removed evolution entirely from the standards of the country. I mean, from the standardized tests, basically. And they said, you can go ahead and teach evolution if you want, but you won't be tested on it. So I'm sure the students are like, yeah, right, we're going to learn that. Of course, their victory was short because a couple of years later, they were voted out en masse afterwards.
And the state became a laughingstock. I mean, it was just the butt of jokes from coast to coast.
Right. And then Florida came along and took that away from them.
Right.
But other than that, so anyway, the school board is now heavily, is stacked with creationists, or at least there are like 2 or 3 very strongly creationist members, especially Terry Leo, who we'll get to.
And that's in Texas.
And then the other 12 people are like, kind of apathetic about it.
They could swing either way. They don't really have an ideological, axe to grind.
Right.
Whereas Terry Leo and the one other guy with the mustache, whose name I can't remember. The other guy who was doing the really aggressive and I thought often insulting questioning. Of people. But definitely those two seemed like the real champions of the ID movement.
Exactly.
But go ahead and talk a little bit about how their approach has changed.
Right. Their approach has changed greatly because, first they were trying to get rid of evolution, then they were trying to bring in creationism, then they were trying to make creationism all scientific, right? And then they were moving to intelligent design, which is like pretending that creationism isn't really about God. Now they're not even doing that anymore. What they're doing instead is trying to nitpick little things about evolution, which are written about in a book by Jonathan Wells called Icons of Evolution. There are a number of little things that they say, you guys teach this as true about evolution, and we don't think they're true. So we want to teach the strengths and weaknesses of evolution. In fact. So we had, for instance, William Dembski, who's a big shot. He's not a scientist, but he's a mathematician at Baylor, and he has this whole thing about how, the evolution is so mathematically improbable that there must be design behind it. But that's not what he talked about. He talked about this strengths and weaknesses thing that was a theme. Do we have that tape queued up? Let's roll it if we've got it.
Okay. Well, Steve will work on it, and we'll just keep describing what's what. I was in email contact
to ignore the push to take science out of our school science textbooks. Close quote.
Okay.
Hillis missed the point entirely.
Nice black screen.
Yeah. In the interim, we'll come back to us while Steve is queuing that up, but or maybe we won't. Well, we'll keep talking.
It's
there we
dark.
Are. Okay.
Better.
When you queue it up, go ahead and go to the other feed, Steve. But I was in email contact prior to the hearing with a fellow named Victor Stenger in Colorado, who is a scientist who has proved that this one law that Dembski has concocted, called like the law of conservation of energy or something, which is one of his mathematical proofs against, are in favor of intelligent design and against the idea that this could all happen through natural processes. And Stenger has shown that this is actually provably wrong. That Dembski has just gotten it wrong, and doesn't really know what he's talking about. And he sent me some of that literature.
But Dembski, like the other scientists, don't go for this newfangled peer review stuff.
I know.
Where they actually invite other scientists to criticize them.
Yeah, and that is the big difference, is it not? That's between the approach. Are we queued up?
Have we got that tape?
All right, let's go and see if we have a William Dembski ready to listen to. It's access, folks. Sometimes stuff works. All right.
In his July testimony, David Hills implored you to ignore the push to take science out of our school science textbooks, close quote. Hillis missed the point entirely. The point is to put more science into our textbooks by including not only the strengths, but also the weaknesses of neo-Darwinian evolutionary theory.
Thanks, sir.
So
you look just a little bit flustered there at running out of time.
Yeah,
you can see my terrible camera work there.
No, it's okay.
You'll see it gets even more Blair Witchy in my later clips.
Okay, so you're warned, people.
Sorry about that.
But now, getting to the point that he had brought up, wanting to include more science in the textbooks by introducing both what the strengths and what he perceives to be
and weaknesses.
The weaknesses.
You know,
but are the weaknesses that they bring up scientifically valid?
Right.
That is the question. You will not be putting more science in the text by bringing up weaknesses that you perceive to be in evolution if the weaknesses you point out aren't backed up by good science.
Exactly.
And this is the problem. Right?
And that's what my speech was about, which is basically the way you tell whether something is scientifically valid is one of the many ways that you tell is if somebody is willing to put their stuff up for peer review, which is a process by which you submit your work to a journal, and then every other scientist who's interested in the subject tries to criticize it. And, you know, people often think this means that scientists are hostile to a certain idea, but it doesn't mean that. It means that scientists like to criticize everything. Because if you don't criticize something, then you can't be sure whether it might be wrong and you just didn't realize it.
Yeah, science has very rigorous standards for a reason.
Right.
Yeah. You've got, I mean...
They want to be right.
And that takes a lot more than just everyone, okay, show of hands, who likes this idea? That really isn't what it's all about.
So, I mean, you know, this whole idea of peer review is not something that the creationists, and I continue to call them creationists, even though they're just saying, oh, we're just criticizing evolution. We're not talking about God or anything. They're creationists. I mean, let's be blunt. They don't publish in these journals, and they say that this is because of a big conspiracy that the scientific community has after them. But there was one guy last night, I mean on Wednesday, who I recall saying that, what was it? I've read this book by Jonathan Wells that has all these criticisms, and you know, I wouldn't even accept this as an undergraduate commission submission. Yeah,
if he said if this, not only would he not accept it as an undergraduate paper, but if it were, he was an editor of a peer-reviewed journal.
Yes.
In his particular field of biology, which was not, I don't want to say, not statistics, it was something. Okay, it was something. That's good, Wagner. But he said that if this had been submitted to his journal, if the conclusions in Wells's book, he said the paper would have been returned without comment.
Yeah,
that's how wrong, and that's how flagrant the distortions in Wells's book are.
Right.
So this is the first problem that we find with the people trying to push intelligent design, is that they claim, this is the new claim, oh, we now have strong science backing up our contention that evolution didn't happen and that there really is some sort of intelligent guiding force that we don't want to identify, because that would be religious. But that made everything. But it turns out that they don't, and even the scientists like Dembski and Wells, I mean, these guys have published peer-reviewed papers, be he on other
subjects.
But when it comes to this particular topic, evolutionary biology, they go straight to the popular press.
And a lot of people don't realize that. It just doesn't count if you publish on other subjects. I mean, William Dembski is a mathematician. Unless he has done something truly incredible and revolutionary, he has no business talking about biology at all. I mean, anybody can talk about it, but to actually claim to be an authority is ridiculous.
Yeah, but what the I think knowing that they have this kind of weakness in their approach, as you said earlier, what they do is they try to pack these school boards and these state boards of education. And this brings us to Ms. Leo.
Yeah,
right?
well,
who was affectionately referred to all evening long by people I was talking to as that woman. It's like the phrase "that woman" just. I've heard when I turned up. Let me explain to you how it all went. Wednesday morning at about 11:30, the Texas Freedom Network. And we can toss up their URL at some point. Texas Freedom Network is a watchdog organization.
They are a really cool bunch of
brilliant.
people. I dig them.
Keeping an eye on the shenanigans of the far religious right, okay, which is what this whole ID movement is motivated by. And they had a lunch, which also was sort of a group huddle, where we all kind of talked about, okay, here's what these guys are going to try to pull and what have you. Then the actual hearings started at 1-ish,
yes.
right? And then they went all evening long. I turned up first. It was about 4:30, and I saw Michelle Gadouche, our co-chair, ACA co-chair, who also testified. She was coming out of the lobby with John Kuntz, and the first thing she said to me was, "I just want to throttle that woman." And I knew immediately who she was talking about, right? So like that woman became Terry Leo's nickname all evening long. And what Terry Leo did with, because she has been coached by the Discovery Institute, which is this big
Jonathan Wells, who I mentioned earlier, sent her this huge brief on what kinds of questions to ask.
Right. And so how did the list of testimonies stack up that day?
First of all, I'd like to say that the whole hearings went on until 1:30 a.m.
I did not testify until 10:45.
Yes.
Yeah.
And people were basically speaking in the order that they had requested to speak.
Yeah.
Except that as soon as Terry Leo could, and before the hearings were even public knowledge, she privately contacted a whole bunch of creationist speakers and piled them onto the list. So of the first 40 speakers, 35 were creationists. It took them 4 hours just to get through that page.
Right, because what happened was each testimony, you had 3 minutes to give your testimony. And then board members could question you as long as they wanted after your testimony. And so what Terry Leo would do, which with all her creationist pals, she would just lob softballs at them.
Yes,
like for 10, 15 minutes at a stretch, while not asking any questions of the pro-science people.
Right. In fact, we've got a clip of Terry Leo just sort of stammering her way into, basically fawning all over the speaker and saying, and trying to make his point for him so that they'll fill up extra time. Can we get that clip?
Let's watch.
I was just going to say that now, you support that ongoing work of scientists who support ID theory, not all of who are Christians, not all of who have the same beliefs, but you also support separation of church and state and have funded and given seminars on that very thing because it has nothing to do. There is no hidden agenda here. There are Christian scientists, there are agnostics, there are Jewish scientists that believe in ID theory.
Intelligence, again, I'd like to talk more about design, but that really is not what we're recommending.
Yeah.
Well,
which is, of course, a big, it's a big fat lie because, which I brought up in my testimony, where I quoted, guys like Jonathan Wells and William Dembski. Basically, Jonathan Wells, who in an article that he wrote said, I prayed to God, and God told me to devote my life to destroying Darwinism. Dembski, in one of his books, he says, any view of science that ignores Christ is deficient. So, and here's Terry Leo saying, oh, this isn't about religion. It's it's a big fat lie.
In fact, I have something from Terry Leo.
Yeah.
Which should just show what kind of bull she's talking.
Yeah.
This is, actually, you can go to her website, terryleo.com.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Oh, jeez.
No. Do not put that on screen, Steve. We don't need that to advertise it that much. But
well, just to prove that that I'm not misquoting her, because this comes straight from something she linked from her website. So she's obviously proud of it. It says, this is not about biology books, but about some other textbook fight. And it said, conservative groups already have had some success in getting publishers to edit information for reasons other than factual accuracy. One target has been global warming, which the groups want presented as a speculative theory. Another is the phrase, this is the good part, the phrase fossil fuels, because to talk about fossil fuels is to talk about fossils, and to talk about fossils means to talk about the Earth millions of years ago, which contradicts biblical timelines and supports biological evolution.
Holy cow.
They were theories being presented as fact, said Terry Leo, the newest conservative member of the state's education board.
Okay, so this woman is just a complete,
she's not
lying bimbo.
She's not just a creationist. She's a young Earth creationist,
That
which
is
is the
crazy.
wackiest of the wacky.
And to sit there and listen to her lying, saying, "Oh, well, we don't have anything against evolution," when of course, her own words are saying, of course, that she does. When you have the ID people saying, "Oh, yeah, this is all about my belief in God," and tell me something: who are these agnostic scientists?
Name one.
Who believe in intelligent design, when the very concept of intelligent design presupposes some sort of supernatural being capable of creating universes and living things in them. So who are these agnostic scientists? List one.
There was a great speech later on in the evening. I don't remember if it was before or after you, but I think it was a little bit before you. He said, so I'm confused about Jonathan Wells, because in one book I read that he says, well, I was just this innocent undergraduate student studying biology, and I started to get concerned about all these apparent errors that were being taught. And so, it sounds like he came from this neutral perspective and then just became aware of these errors. And then he read the quote where he said, I made it my lifelong goal to destroy evolution. Which is it?
Yes, right. But to get back to the way the whole series of testimonials was structured, the net effect of front-loading all of the creationists was that by the time 4 hours had gone by, the media was done. There was this, forest of television cameras, and then they pretty much were like, okay, we got what we need, because they're only going to get like 30-second sound bites.
And I wouldn't expect them to stay until 1:30.
So they split, right? And this had the net effect of giving them this sort of misrepresentation of exactly who was there and what side was really being pitched for. Because after the first 35 creationists, there were more during the evening.
Yeah, in fact, it was almost solid pro-evolution. Yeah. Let's keep
pro-science. I mean, you had about.
Let's not introduce these nonsense errors.
Yeah, the entire evening was, I would say, about 65 to 70% skewed towards, with people in favor of teaching correct science.
Yes.
But you wouldn't get that impression.
And those were the people who obviously knew what they were talking about. Those were the, biology professionals.
Stephen Weinberg.
Those were Stephen Weinberg, Nobel laureate.
Yeah. Which, to their credit, the board allowed him to speak
for an extra long amount of time.
Just out of respect for his stature, even though that woman, presume at the end, this was so funny, she thought that she would try to lecture him on a little point, right? This man is a Nobel laureate, okay, right? Smarter than everyone in that room put together.
And I don't know about that. There were some
up
incredibly smart people in that room.
There were some smart people, I know, but I mean, come on, let's. But she brought up some little point, and he, in his calm, professorial, deep voice,
he sounds kind of like James Earl Jones.
Yeah. And he just, spanked her like a little bitch, right? I mean, I had this image of Stephen Weinberg, perfectly professional, right? But I had this image of Stephen Weinberg taking Terry Leo over his knee and like, you silly girl, silly. That was just. It's just so wonderful.
Do we have a clip of this?
No, but I just saw that image in my mind.
I will have the audio for you, but I'll talk about that later.
Maybe we can get somebody to do a flash animation for us. But that was just the impression I got, because she thought she was, she's like, oh no, I have to, right. And he just very calmly, as if talking to a particularly slow student in one of his classes.
Which she was.
Yeah. Just knocked her down, and he was just completely brilliant, got a huge ovation from the entire room, as did another speaker who really impressed me, who was a high school sophomore. Kid.
Oh yes, he was incredible.
Well, I unfortunately I didn't bring the list of names of everybody, but this kid was brilliant. He, I guess 15 years old.
15 years old.
He switched his place in line because it was getting late and he had to go home and go to bed, right? So he went up, and the board was very respectful to him, and he was amazing. He had public speaking skills that experienced adult public speakers don't have.
Yeah.
In that room full of scientists and educators and everything, and professional BSers,
Yeah.
he was one of the best speakers of the night.
He held his own,
Wow.
and basically came out and said, I've looked at something like 9 out of the dozen textbooks that are up for review here.
Wow.
I think that they do in their current form, which is what all the pro-scientists were saying, the pro-science, the professors, the people. Thinking, no, don't change anything. It's like the textbooks in their current form are fine in terms of addressing the strengths and possible weaknesses of the evolutionary theory.
Yes.
And just impressed absolutely everyone, got a huge ovation from the room. And even that woman was not dumb enough to try to,
Go attacking a 15-year-old kid.
There was so much goodwill for him in the room.
Yeah.
But he was
Wow.
terrific.
That's
And, I see a kid like that and I'm like, okay, there's hope for America in small doses after all. But he was great.
There's another speaker. There were several out-of-town speakers, and out of state, and they didn't get to go until the end of the night.
Yes.
So we didn't get to hear like many of the Discovery Institute big shots like Michael Behe and Jonathan Wells until the end. But there were also some very excellent people from the National Center for Science Education. And one of them who pretty much wrapped up the night very excellently, just put a great little footer on the whole evening, was Dr. Alan Gishling?
Yes.
Gishlick.
Gishlick.
Yes.
I think that's right.
And I would like to see that clip now.
Okay. All right, yeah, it's queued up, so we'll watch.
But it's important to look at the versions they have. Do they get what generally scientists think? And I think they are accurate. If these examples that we've talked about endlessly tonight are as flawed as some critics have claimed, then why aren't they asking them to be removed? Instead, they're asking you to leave them in and then criticize them. This would have the effect of teachers saying, well, we just made you learn this, and now we're going to tell you it's wrong. This would actually have a far worse effect on students' understanding of biology as we in the field understand it, because it would leave them with the impression that we really are in doubt about many of these objects, which we are not. Now, there may be discussions about the degree to which certain of these examples are not presented perfectly, and we always hope that textbooks improve them. I have certainly made my effort when I've worked with textbooks to improve many of the things that I see as mistakes. And for that, I thank you for letting me come and speak to you from out of state and so late in the day. It's pretty amazing that you're all here, including the court reporter. Wow, what a stud.
Thank you.
There he is.
Thanks, Steve. That was a really interesting point that I don't think I'd heard any of the speakers during the evening bring up. It's like, all right, why put weaknesses in a textbook?
Yeah, why not just teach what is, what correct science is, and then just toss out, what has gone wrong? Because that's what real scientists do, is, oops, we made a mistake, move on.
And it occurs to me that if they are concerned about that sort of thing, which I don't think they are from an honest position, right? I don't think this really is all about, let's teach the strengths and the weaknesses.
Science.
Because
I think Steve can put the phone number up now.
Yes, he can. Yeah, and this is a live call-in show still, by the way, folks. But because I think what the Discovery Institute wants, right, is if students keep hearing the term weaknesses in the theory of evolution, then they develop an association in their minds, right? They'll develop this word association, evolution weak, and the net effect of that will be to end up just making students mistrust the entire field of study in evolution. And then at that point, that's
then they'll go to intelligent design and then biblical creation, because that's their long-term goal.
Right, so this is sort of the wedge strategy, but just with a different approach, as it were.
And the point that I was trying to hit on in my talk was that it's not the job of the school boards and the textbooks to dictate what correct science is.
Right.
Scientists figure out what correct science is first.
Right.
And then you teach what they found. For someone like Terry Leo to be presuming to lecture scientists on how science should be taught is just ass backwards.
Especially with Steven Weinberg, for crying out loud. Yeah. And
come on.
Yeah, it's dismaying to me that in this day and age, like what are we, 80 years now after the Scopes trial and everything, and that this still has to take place, that we still have to have these kinds of discussions. it really is just nonsense. And I think that it shows what a long way the human race has to go before, we throw off just these things that are holding us back, these shackles of, our superstitious atavisms, I just, because that really is what this is about. I mean, who is the intelligent designer they are talking about? I was chatting during a lot of the evening with a woman named Amanda Walker. Brilliant.
Yes.
Biology teacher. Really cool chick, too. Just a very cool person to talk to.
I got her business card.
You did. All right. Well, too bad, because you're married. But,
darn.
But just very, no.
My wife is watching this show, so luckily.
But just very cool person all the way. But she was like that boy we were talking about, young man we were talking about earlier. She's like, he's one of mine. Yes, dude. She was beaming with pride. But I was talking with her about this, and mentioned this whole thing, and I was and she was like, oh, I don't want to go there, in terms of the whole question of, well, who is this intelligent designer and where did the designer come from? And I tried to point out to her, see, you got to go there, because that's really what this is, okay? And because if they want to suggest an intelligent designer that it had to have been involved in the process of life, the universe, and everything, but then they don't want to address who or what kind of being this intelligent designer is, and how this intelligent designer works, and where the designer came from, etc., etc., etc. Then what they're doing, right, is they are essentially negating their criticisms of evolution on the grounds that evolution, it leaves so many unanswered questions,
right,
and therefore it's a weak theory. Because all they're doing is they're replacing that with a bigger unanswered question.
It's like they're trying to hide from their own positions because they know that they're unpopular, so they have to slip it in disguise.
Yeah. And they also, and they know that the courts have previously ruled, back when they called it creationism, that this is introducing religion into a public school curriculum, and you can't do that.
And as soon as it becomes actual science, it is perfectly welcome in the science classroom.
Please get intelligent design done in peer-reviewed journals and then put it in the textbooks. I'm serious. I would love to see this become real science.
Exactly.
So
I was honored to get to talk to Robert Pennock that night, though, who is the author of Tower of Babel, which is one of the best books on creationism I've read.
Yeah.
And he's a very nice guy, and we had a long talk about creationist strategies, and it was just a fun evening all around.
It was. I was afraid that no, this is going to be boring. It's going to be people droning on it. No, it was really exciting. And just to mention, before we go ahead and take our first call, because I know folks have been waiting very patiently.
Can I get the website up for a second?
Our website?
Yeah.
Well, okay, it's above our heads, and
right.
But if you go to the past events page.
Yes, it says events.
Yeah. Well, it's at the top menu. Will say past events.
Right.
And you've got all the. Thank you, Russell. There it is. And below us too. You have put up audio clips of some of more speeches than the ones you just heard, and our testimony transcripts,
right,
as well, and some photographs. So very thorough coverage from us over the whole evening.
And a complete report, which I'm still working on, but it's going to be a very complete report of like a lot of the speakers and everything that happened all evening.
But if you want,
check that out.
The best in-depth coverage, I think, of the whole hearing you'll find there. So
thank you.
But Samantha Smoot, just to final word before we go to our caller, Troy, who's been waiting. She mentioned in her testimonial, in fact, she deviated from her prepared material, because she was talking about just some of the shenanigans that the ID camp had pulled, and apparently the most startling thing that happened that evening. I didn't see this, but after she got done with her testimony, I ran out to the lobby and corralled her and said, "Tell me what happened." Apparently, earlier in the evening, there was a Baptist minister that I think the the Discovery Institute people had been talking to before the hearing. But he got up there and he actually testified against introducing intelligent design into curriculum. He testified
introducing errors,
right, and introducing and he testified in favor of teaching evolution properly. And this did not sit well with the Discovery Institute people. Apparently, 3 or 4 of them followed him out into the hall and gave him a big verbal harangue, which apparently concluded with one of them slapping him on the back or shoulder.
Yeah, they were acting fake friendly, like hey.
Yeah,
and just surrounding him. It was
and one of them called him a bastard, apparently. So
the guy in the blue shirt was a Discovery Institute person.
yeah,
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So we so that was apparently not so that's when the the mask came off, as it were, and you just see how unfriendly the folks were. But there were actually there were a few Christians that evening who testified in favor of teaching proper science. There's a young woman was a graduate student.
Quite a few, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people just threw in as an afterthought. By the way, I'm a Christian. But
Yeah, but I was very impressed by one woman who came on, in fact, right after Steven Weinberg. She is a graduate student from Rice. And she described how she's like, I don't want this put in textbooks. I'm a Christian. She was very devout. But described how she had this ability to compartmentalize her religious beliefs, which she said these are based on faith, and you can't use the scientific method to talk about them. And now, of course, we don't agree with these views, but she showed that it's possible. And the ID camp, they don't like Christians like this.
No.
They call them theistic evolutionists, and they treat them like traitors.
I think they're a bigger threat to them than just some atheists, because, I mean,
And
atheists are fringe in our society.
Yeah. And that woman tried to catch her out in the questioning. She asked her some really pointed questions that I think the gist of it was, doesn't this make you like a bad Christian, or isn't this weird?
Right.
How can you have these views that seem to be very disparate and contradictory?
She read that quote about evolution being undirected, and she said, how can you think that?
Yeah, that's right.
That's
if you believe in a God, and the woman wouldn't buckle. I mean, she's like, well, because my beliefs are based on faith, and science is science, and the two are separate disciplines. So that was kind of impressive.
Wow.
But yeah, they're not friendly with dissension in their own ranks.
Apparently not.
But